They thought it would be funny. A millionaire, powerful and arrogant, sent an invitation to his black cleaning lady, not out of kindness, but as a cool joke. To him, she was invisible, someone meant to stay in the shadows. But when the night arrived, she walked through those grand doors in a way no one expected. In that moment, whispers turned into silence, and laughter turned into shame. What happened next exposed the truth about dignity, racism, and respect that no amount of wealth could ever hide. Before that night, her life looked nothing like the glittering hole she was about to walk into. Denise was a hard-working woman, raising 2 children on her own. Every day, she scrubbed floors and polished tables in homes where people barely noticed her existence. For years, she endured the sideways glances, the dismissive tone of voices that treated her like she was beneath them. Yet, through it all, she carried herself with quiet strength. Denise wasn't bitter. She dreamed bigger, even when life told her to stay small. She found joy in the little victories, getting her kids through school, saving every dollar, and reminding herself that her worth wasn't defined by the job she held. Still, there were moments when the weight of other people's judgment pressed heavy on her shoulders. At the mansion where she cleaned twice a week, she was treated as if she were part of the furniture. The owner, a wealthy businessman who thrived on power and appearances, rarely acknowledged her, and when he did, it was never with kindness. That's why, when an embossed invitation was sent to her for his exclusive gala, Denise almost thought it was a mistake. But it wasn't. What she didn't know was that the invitation wasn't an act of generosity. It was a cool game, a setup meant to make her presence the evening's entertainment. The guests would laugh, the host would smirk, and she would be the punchline. At least, that's what they believed. The night of the gala arrived. The mansion was alive with the glow of chandeliers, the clinking of champagne glasses, and the soft hum of expensive conversations. Guests arrived in sleek black cars, dressed in designer gowns and tailored suits. They were the city's elite, each one eager to be seen in the right place with the right people. When Denise stepped out of the cab, the air shifted. She wasn't wearing the plain uniform they expected her in. Instead, she wore a deep emerald gown she had saved for years to buy, a dress that shimmered under the lights as though it were made for this moment. Her hair was styled, her posture elegant, her presence commanding. Heads turned instantly. At first, the whispers started small. A few chuckles here, a raised eyebrow there. "Isn't that the cleaning lady?" some murmured behind their glasses. Others smirked, waiting for the joke to reveal itself. But Denise walked with steady grace, refusing to let the weight of their stares slow her down. Each step across the marble floor was deliberate, echoing louder than their whispers. The host spotted her from across the room, his smirk growing as he leaned over to his friends. To him, this was the moment he had planned, the spectacle of the night. She wasn't supposed to blend in. She was supposed to stand out in all the wrong ways. But as Denise approached the grand hall, something unexpected happened. Instead of mockery, there was silence, a silence that unsettled the crowd. Her confidence wasn't the meek humility they expected. It was something else, something regal, something powerful. She didn't look like a servant who had stumbled into the wrong place. She looked like she belonged. Still, the night wasn't kind. Small slights cut at her throughout the evening. Some guests turned their backs. Others offered fake smiles, dripping with condescension. One woman, clutching her pearls, deliberately moved her glass away as Denise passed, as if her presence might somehow stain it. And yet, Denise held her head high. Every insult was met not with anger, but with poise. What the crowd didn't know was that Denise had been preparing for this moment her entire life, not for their acceptance, but for her own affirmation. She wasn't there to seek their approval. She was there to show, to herself and to them, that no amount of prejudice could strip away her dignity. But the host wasn't finished. His eyes gleamed with cruel intent. The joke, in his mind, was still unfolding. He had one more move to make, a move that would push Denise to the edge and expose just how much strength she truly carried inside her. As the night reached its peak, the host tapped his glass, silencing the room. With a smug grin, he announced a special surprise. All eyes turned toward him as he gestured for Denise to step forward. His voice dripped with mockery as he introduced her, not as a guest, but as the cleaning lady who somehow found her way into high society. Laughter rippled across the hall, sharp and cruel. For a moment, the weight of 100 eyes pressed down on her. The humiliation was thick in the air, exactly as he intended. But instead of shrinking, Denise straightened her shoulders and stepped into the center of the room. The emerald gown shimmered under the chandeliers, her presence impossible to ignore. She didn't need a microphone. Her silence spoke louder than any insult. Her gaze moved steadily across the room, meeting eyes one by one, until the laughter faltered. Something about the calm in her posture unsettled them. She wasn't breaking. She wasn't giving them what they wanted. Then, with measured grace, she reached into her purse and pulled out a small card. It wasn't just any card. It was her official acceptance letter into a prestigious local business program she had been working toward for years, a program that only a handful of the city's most promising entrepreneurs ever entered. She had earned her place not by wealth, but by grit, determination, and brilliance they could never imagine. The room went silent. The host's smirk slipped, his confidence crumbling as he realized the joke had turned on him. Here stood the woman he thought he could humiliate, now shining with a dignity that outclassed everyone in the room. Denise didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. Her very presence was the answer, the living proof that no amount of prejudice or cruelty could erase her worth. The power in the room had shifted, and for the first time, the host was the one left exposed, stripped not of wealth, but of respect. The rest of the evening unfolded in a way no one had anticipated. Conversation shifted, laughter quieted, and eyes lingered on Denise not with mockery, but with a mixture of shame and awe. She hadn't raised her voice. She hadn't demanded respect. She had simply carried it with her, and in doing so, she revealed the emptiness of those who tried to strip it away. The host never recovered the night. His attempt at cruelty backfired, leaving him exposed as a small man he truly was. Guests who once followed his lead now avoided his gaze, unwilling to be associated with the spectacle he had created. Denise, however, stayed only as long as she wished. She didn't cling to the validation of the crowd. She had walked in with her dignity, and she would leave with it intact. When she stepped back into the night air, the world felt different. Not because society had changed in an instant. It hadn't, but because she had reminded herself of who she was. And for those who witnessed it, the image of a black woman standing tall against mockery and prejudice would not be forgotten easily. This story isn't just about a single evening in a millionaire's mansion. It's about every moment when dignity meets cruelty, when strength stands in the face of racism. Denise's story is a story of countless others, people underestimated, dismissed, or ridiculed simply because of who they are. And it leaves us with a question. How many more times will it take before dignity is no longer questioned, before respect isn't earned through humiliation, but given freely as a right? Until that day comes, stories like this will continue to remind us, true worth is not defined by wealth, but by the strength no one can take away.